Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tri-State with Tiny and Katie.
Let's talk Tri-State.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Tri-State, all powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the Right Choice winner in the 2024 Best of the Tri-State Awards. Joining us today, we have Mike Ross from the Franklin County Area Development Corporation. He's the president of the FCADC. Mike, good to have you today.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
We are looking very forward to this year. So I thought what we would do today is we would do a review of 2024 and then a preview of 2025, if that works for you.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
So take us through, first of all, tell us, because there may be some folks who have not heard of the Franklin County Area Development Corporation, may not have heard of you. So let's take us through what you do in the most basic of terms that everyone will understand, in layman's terms, what you do, and then we'll move forward.
Yeah, very, very simply, the Franklin County Area Development Corporation, which was created in 1960 and reconstituted in 1986, we are the economic development agency for Franklin County. We're not part of county government, but we're funded in part by county government, if that makes sense. And our job is to support business growth throughout Franklin County. And that is from the standpoint of supporting local business. That's 85%.
You're good. You're good.
Sorry about that. But 85% of what we do is to support local businesses with their growth and expansion plans. Our job is to try to retain the businesses that we have, help them grow, and we do that with a number of programs. We have low-interest financing programs that we can avail. We can help them with site searches. We can help them with permitting in a number of ways. We also try to recruit new businesses to the county that are going to help diversify the local economy, and then we help individuals who are looking to start businesses.
Okay.
So we're a resource for anybody who's in business, regardless of size.
Do you find that people that you have met somewhere along their journey with business that they said, wow, Mike, I really wish I would have known about you sooner?
Yes, absolutely. And we always encourage companies who are looking at a business opportunity to give us a call. And what we'll try to do is, we're not trying to inject ourselves into their project, but we want to make sure that they're aware of the resources that are available to them. And if we can be helpful, we will be. And if we're not, we'll be a cheerleader for them.
There you go.
But the goal is to make people aware of what we don't want to have happen is down the road, say, if I had known,
right,
I would have done this differently.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah. And so we try to make ourselves available. And we've been doing this long enough now, and I never take for granted that, to your earlier point, that for those who may not have ever heard of us, we assume nobody's ever heard of us. And but we've been doing this for a long time. Over the last 39 years, we've done well over 1,000 projects across the county, and they've ranged from mom and pop coffee shops like Greencastle Coffee Roaster to the Walmart distribution center.
So let's look at 2024 from let's take a 30,000 foot view here. Now, when it comes to Franklin County and the level of growth that we're seeing, I think it's very high. But on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being none and 9 being this is crazy booming, where would you say Franklin County?
Let me put it in context.
Okay.
Pennsylvania is a stagnant state. Okay. The growth that occurs in Pennsylvania is in south central and southeastern Pennsylvania. And the easiest way to describe it, if you get on Interstate 81, 5 miles south of your studio here, and travel to mile marker 89 in Lebanon County, where I-78 splits off of that, and take I-78 down through the Lehigh Valley to Phillipsburg, New Jersey, the 15 counties that fall into that perimeter are the 15 counties that are primarily driving Pennsylvania's economy. Okay. So we are experiencing growth. We're one of the 10 fastest growing counties in Pennsylvania of the 67. We're one of the 10 fastest growing. Having said that, now, so we believe we're doing well. If you compare us to counties in Texas or Florida or Georgia, our growth would pale by comparison. Okay. So it's a kind of a two-sided answer to that. Yes, we are doing well, but we're trying to accommodate the growth that we have. We're in a great location, but comparatively speaking, the business climate in those states is different than Pennsylvania.
Well, I was going to say, is that, I understand the comparison, but is that necessarily a negative thing?
No,
That,
it's not.
Right.
It's not. But again, just to put the growth
Sure.
in context.
Yeah.
But no, the one thing that we are located within a 12-hour drive of essentially 50% of the North American population.
Mm-hmm.
So that includes Ontario, Canada. You can go as far west as Chicago. You're going from essentially Charlotte to Toronto along the East Coast. And so we are a great location, and we've seen that with the number of distribution centers that have popped up because.
well, if you think about it,
that's why we're
just from a standpoint of interstates, you have two massive ones, 81, 95.
And 81 has supplanted 95 as the commerce corridor.
Yeah.
Only primarily because 95 is built out.
Yeah.
For all intents, and it's very, very expensive.
Sure.
To build 95.
Sure. So let's look at 2024 when it comes to Franklin County. We're talking with Mike Ross. Mike is the president of the Franklin County Area Development Corporation on Let's Talk Tri-State today. Take us through a 30,000-foot view of 2024. What did you see? What did you see happen? What's still on the table here?
Okay. So, and again, when we talk about this, and because I can preview 2025, which will be a repeat of 2024, which is a repeat of 2023, we continue to experience a lot of activity in a variety of industry sectors. The one industry sector we rarely talk about, but is not only significant to Franklin County, but significant to the region, is the defense sector. So Letterkenny Army Depot, and I would argue that every community in the country would want a Letterkenny because it's significant to our national defense, significant to our local economy. And these are the folks that are making above average wages and have the disposable income to reinvest back into the community.
Sure.
So that's very, very important to us. Letterkenny's going through a modernization program right now, and the federal government has committed somewhere between $500 and $750 million to rebuilding Letterkenny.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw 2 groundbreakings take place in 2024, and we're looking at probably 2 more in 2025, and hopefully by 2035, the investments will be completed. But the defense sector was very positive for us in 2024. We saw a major expansion of March potato rolls, which was a $123 million expansion as they continue to grow their international business. And interestingly, the expansion taking place right now is to support their expansion into the Middle East.
Okay.
So most people think of potato rolls going from Chambersburg to the Weiss store only.
Right.
And it's hard to conceive that they're shipping and producing.
They're a
producing
national,
in
international
Chambersburg,
brand.
but they're shipping into the Middle East.
Is there any talk of them having other distribution plants, or do they?
They have one other production plant in Valdosta, Georgia,
Okay.
which is essentially right on the Florida-Georgia line. And that was impacted initially by the hurricanes that hit down there. And at this point, I think they are exploring what their opportunities may be in the Midwest and beyond. But at this point, they are, it's still family owned, still headquartered here in Chambersburg, and so we were very excited to see what they were doing. We saw activity over in we continue to see in the Wharf Road Industrial Park. We're working on a project right now that started in 2024 that we're hopeful of being able to announce in early February. Again, small manufacturing operation, and that's important to us. We've seen continued activity of Volvo Construction, Manitowoc Crane Group, JLG, and those are our 3 major manufacturers in addition to Johnson Control and companies like Brymar and Cam Superline, and they're like. But what's so important about that manufacturing is there's a tear down effect on suppliers. So we see a number of smaller companies. It's the Pro Tubes of the world. It's the Builtwoods of the world who are doing work for those manufacturers.
Just feeding off of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so was there anything else notable from 2024 before we move on to?
Yeah, we did in terms of investments that we looked at and we thought we were part of in 24 was about $235 million
Wow.
for it. So yeah, it was a good year.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's look at, first of all, you mentioned something when you were here before and said about a new exit coming, exit 12 on 81.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
What is the projected timeline
Well,
look like?
the projected timeline, this started out as one of the most accelerated projects in the history of PennDOT. And it has now fallen into another typical PennDOT project that it just seems to drag on forever. It was supposed to have been under construction in 2016. Okay, we're now looking, the revised date is 2026. So we thought it was actually going to take place in May of this year, that the contract would be let. We're now looking at, PennDOT has revised that to 2026. The project is funded, and the cost every time it gets delayed increases
Sure.
significantly. So it is a much different project from a cost standpoint in 2026.
How
than it
will
would have been.
how will the local area benefit from that? I know that you said before that it allows for ease of access to some of the distribution centers that are there, and we understand that that would be a benefit for the distribution centers, for the tractor trailers and that. But how does the average person who lives in that area, what benefit do they see from something like that?
Well, I think, well, let me explain. The initial genesis for the project was to try to alleviate congestion at exit 14, the Wayne Avenue exit, which, by the way, just as an aside, for all those listening, what's going to impact the Wayne Avenue interchange is Wawa open next week.
Right. Yes.
On the 23rd.
Sure.
So that will, and being located on Wayne Avenue can hardly wait.
Yeah.
Traffic everywhere. It's amazing what we do at convenience stores. But the genesis was to alleviate, because we have the intermodal terminal at exit 24 or at exit 14, the CSX intermodal, the Norfolk Southern intermodal being here in Antrim Township. But that was the what's going to get developed around that interchange is going to be additional distribution.
Right.
So what the benefit will be, ideally, we're putting those distribution centers in locations that make the most sense. And that's important.
Right.
And so we're not putting them in, the townships along 81, and the municipality, all the municipalities, to include the boroughs. But if you start at the northern end, Southampton Township, which is exit 24, which has the Shippensburg address, they've zoned their township to essentially contain distribution in major industrial buildings at the interchange. So we're not building off on the prime farmland.
Right.
Same thing, exit 20 becomes the Scotland exit, which is Letterkenny, the Chambersburg Mall, and the Scotland School, both of which the Scotland School and the Chambersburg Mall are still primary redevelopment challenges for 2025. And then at 17, you have the commercial, the Walker Road.
Sure. Yeah.
And all the commercial activities taking place there. You have Lincoln Way 16. But at 14, Guilford Township has zoned that, the Chambers 5 business park in conjunction with the borough of Chambersburg, but all that south, and to include exit 12, will be, they're protecting farmland. So if you go on the east side of Interstate 81 in Guilford Township, it's all agricultural.
Right.
zones.
Yes.
And they've done that on purpose, so they don't have sprawling industrial development. And
Okay.
then you come down into, Marion, you've seen that's part of Guilford, and you've got the big distribution center sitting vacant, at
Right. Yeah.
which seems somebody miscalculated, it looks to me.
Yeah.
On the demand for when they build it, and then but then you get to exit 5. This is the most challenged interchange in Franklin County, because it needs to be blown up and rebuilt.
Yeah. It does. Having dealt with it for years, I've lived in Waynesboro over half my life, so coming up on 30 years. And I've worked here at the radio station going on at just over 20. So I'm used to the interchange as we know it right now here at exit 5. But what are the challenges for that? Is it something that I just don't?
It's very costly trying to to redesign and reconfigure to get better traffic flows. There's a lot of you're going to have a lot of right-of-way challenges,
Yep.
a lot of easement challenges, and so PennDOT has looked at fixes at Exit 5 that range, if my recollection is correct, they range from about 35 to about $60 million to make the fixes.
Right.
And those monies simply aren't there right now.
That math doesn't math.
No,
so to speak.
and right now their focus is the interchange, and that interchange which started out, and I forget what I think it's now somewhere around $40 million. So
This is the exit 12.
for Exit 12. So that's their focus right now.
Right.
In Franklin County, but at Exit 5, I mean that serves Manitowoc, which is the largest manufacturing employer in Franklin County, and it serves the Wharf Road Industrial Park and coming out, and then that little park has developed, and you have several hundred employees and working in there, and it's doing everything we hoped it would do, and a lot of those companies are the ones supporting the large manufacturers.
It seems like exit 3 is more suited for the industrial.
Exit 3 is, in my opinion, one of the most developed and developable interchanges on Interstate 81 in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's taking place there is nothing short of remarkable.
Oh, it's absolutely incredible. It is.
In terms of the amount of investment that's taking place, the amount of job creation that's taking place, the amount of infrastructure development that's taking place. It's unbelievable.
Lots of potential, like you said. Very developable.
And to that point, we were talking, you're asking about our growth. What makes Franklin County unique, in my opinion, is we're part of this quad state region. And when you talk about the tri-state area, we look at even quad state to include Frederick County, Virginia, and our tagline is we're 4 counties, 4 states, 40 miles.
Yeah.
And it's so where we're sitting right now, we're closer to Winchester, Virginia, than we are to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And the people in Harrisburg don't realize that. And if you talk to the folks in Washington County, the folks in Annapolis think that once you get west of Frederick, you're out
in the boonies.
Yeah, there's no indoor plumbing.
Well, you bring up an interesting point, because earlier you said how this area is within 12 hours of about 50% of the North American population. But if you look at our area, to your point about the quad state, that's almost a microcosm of that exact thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we all fly and have flown under the radar of our respective state capitals for a long time. So if you talk to the folks in Harrisburg, because Franklin County was never part of the Harrisburg media market, and the only time that we would get coverage would be if there's a fatal crash
Something
on
major.
91, or one of our sports teams is competing for a state championship. Aside from that, we have anything south of Carlisle we don't worry about. And again, I mentioned about Annapolis, anything west of Frederick, and Berkeley County so far from Charleston. I think Charleston recognizes Berkeley County, but it's not it's atypical in a lot of ways for West Virginia. And then nobody wakes up in Richmond every morning and says, what's going on in Winchester?
Exactly.
Okay. So when you look at what the activity that's taking place, all of a sudden we're on the radar of major site location consultants, on manufacturers, on distribution, because they're all looking here saying, Harrisburg has developed that, which is a major transportation hub. Hagerstown is ideal.
Yeah.
I mean, you have 81 and 70 intersecting right there. We're an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half out of downtown DC.
Sure.
Much closer to the Beltway.
You could say, Hagerstown, I grew up in Hagerstown, and Hagerstown was always called the hub city, and there's good reason for that. You have 70, 81 interchange, and to your point, it's, being far away or farther away from their respective capitals, or far enough away, this area, this quad state as you refer to it, has almost become like its own little, well, let's just do what we need to do.
Exactly, and that's been our attitude, I think, and we've seen significant development, and typically when policymakers from any of those they come out, they're stunned.
Yeah.
It's like, we had no idea this was going on. And it's Martin's Potato Roll is an example. did you eat more? I had no idea they made Chambersburg.
Right.
And we had no idea the size of the facility and the fact that it's still private. One of the great experiences for me, this is how anal I am and how you can see where my life is if I go out of town, on vacation or a business trip or what have you, and there are times where you'll see a construction site, and I remember vividly being in Providence, Rhode Island one time, walking out of my hotel, walk down the street, they have a construction site, there's a JLG lift, a Manitowoc crane, and a Volvo earth mover. And it all comes right back here.
Yeah.
So I could all three.
And they were eating lunch in Martin's potato rolls.
Exactly.
So, Mike, is there anything that, real quick with the last couple minutes we have here, anything 2025 that groundbreaking, not literal ground, but that's
one of the big challenges we're going to have in 2025, and it's been an ongoing challenge. We are going to be focused more intently, and we think we have been, but not. We obviously haven't seen the results we want. We've got to deal with this child care crisis. It's impacting employers. It's impacting our future workforce development. And we need to really concentrate our focus on being able immediately to be able to free for a lot of employees, their ability to work is centered around can I get child care?
Sure.
And can we get quality and affordable child?
Because otherwise it's cost prohibitive.
Exactly.
You literally are working to fund child care.
So you may as well stay home.
Right.
Well, in some ways that may be a better option anyway, but clearly it's limiting your options, the cost of it. But for employers, they have to be part of the solution. And I think there's got to be a recognition, and I think that we have to figure out how employers can partner with one another to help address it. But we've got to better understand what our options are, and I think that's going to be a major focus. We're going to host, we do an annual economic what we refer to as a State of the Economy breakfast. This year's going to be a lot. It'll be on March 6th at the Orchard Restaurant in Chambersburg, and we're going to hopefully have a focus. We'll review and preview the economy of 24 and 25. A little bit of what we just did, but then we're going to focus on how do we engage employers in addressing the child care issue. And it's not Franklin County is a microcosm of what's
it's all over.
On all over the country. So,
Well, Mike, thanks for joining us. Mike is the
pleasure.
president of the Franklin County Area Development Corporation, and we certainly will have you back as we get well into 2025 and see what's going on in our area.
I always enjoy it.
Absolutely. We'll be right back with Let's Talk Tri-State, all powered by the DRB Group, the right partner for your real estate development.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.